can't believe there's like over 1 billion people on this planet. And the only person I have to talk about this to is you.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and discussing Mike and Jimmy during Season 5 of Better Call Saul, specifically their conversation during Season 5, Episode 9. Warning of spoilers up to Episode 509, Bad Choice Road, and let's jump right into this.
This is a bad choice road.
So, after everything that happened in episode 508 and returning from the desert, Jimmy just can't get it off of his mind and return to his normal life. He can't sit still at home, so he decides to go into work to get his mind off of things, but that doesn't work out well as he loses in court. Normally, Jimmy being Saul Goodman is a way to distract himself from his problems, and instead just have fun with it. But this time, not even that works. Jimmy, realizing that he needs to talk to somebody about this, calls up the only person that he can, Mike. Side note, it's interesting how this is something that Jimmy wishes he could open up to more people about, but when you compare it to Chuck's death, it's something that Jimmy should have opened up about, but didn't. Anyways, no matter what Jimmy does, he just can't get what happened in the desert off of his mind. And understandably so, I'd be pretty shooken up myself. So after being hassled by ADA Oakley for losing to him in court, Jimmy calls Mike to come and meet him because he's the only person that he can safely speak to about what's on his mind. And about that, we literally see Jimmy choose to speak with Mike about this over Kim. It's not that he doesn't want to speak with Kim, but after Mike warned Jimmy that telling Kim the truth about the cartel involved her in the game, we can see Jimmy trying to protect Kim from the truth again all episode by not telling her anything. So the whole episode, Jimmy's trying to prevent Kim from being in the game, but he's trying to prevent the inevitable. It's already too little too late. As if Jimmy telling her the truth wasn't enough, Kim literally went and spoke to Lalo face to face, and then Kim solidifies herself in the game at the end of the episode by standing up to Lalo, getting him to back off while potentially saving both Jimmy and herself. Kim knows that Jimmy's lying and that he's hiding something about what happened in the desert. She offers him all the comfort that she can without judgment, but he still just walks away from her. Anyways, sorry, this video is mainly about Mike and Jimmy, I swear. I just wanted to preference all the steps actually leading up to why Jimmy was faced with no other options other than to meet with Mike and talk to him. So Jimmy hops in the car and Mike tells him that he can start talking anytime now, implying and confirming that Jimmy did indeed call him and tell him to drive over and talk about what happened. Jimmy asks, when is it all going to go away? But Mike says that it's different for different people. Jimmy's still in shock from what happened and he's also definitely traumatized. We see multiple examples of Jimmy experiencing this traumatic backlash, the most obvious example being how the pizza that sprayed all over him reminds Jimmy of the blood splattering all over himself from last episode.
Damn it! Shit.
This isn't the first time that we've seen Jimmy act traumatized. We saw this back in Season 1 when he was flinching to someone in the background of a restaurant breaking pretzels because it reminded him of Tuco breaking the skateboarder's legs.
I'll be right back.
Quit moving, you're only gonna make it worse! Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
There's a lot of gold dialogue here between Mike and Jimmy, so let's break it down piece by piece. First off, there's the monologue of Mike telling Jimmy that it's possible to forget. This is an amazing explanation of what it's really like to move on with your life when something incomprehensible has happened to you. You're always thinking about it until one day you don't. It's different for everybody, and it doesn't have to be something traumatic, even just something sad or depressing, but eventually, as Mike says here, brushing your teeth, you'll realize that you haven't thought about it in a while. No matter how much you try to force distractions on yourself, nothing heals better than time, hopefully.
Well, here's what's going to happen. One day, you're going to wake up, eat your breakfast, brush your teeth, go about your business. And sooner or later, you're going to realize you haven't thought about it. None of it. And that's the moment you realize you can forget. When you know that's possible, it all gets easier.
Mike then explains why he doesn't feel guilty for killing those men out in the desert. Not only was Mike hired to do a job, the reasoning why he told Jimmy that he didn't take the Kettleman's money back in Season 1, but also, Mike uses this logic to make sure that it's nothing personal for him.
So, but what about you? Like, what happened out there doesn't bother you?
Them wanting to steal the $7 million didn't work for me. Not to mention, they wanted to shoot you in the head. It was them or it was us, cut and dried. They were in the game.
When he's hired to do a job, that's all there is to it. They were in the game, and it was Jimmy and him or them. Jimmy brings up Fred from Travel Wire, the man that Lalo murdered and went to court for. Mike agrees that no, Fred wasn't in the game, and sometimes tragedies like that happen. This hits Mike hard because he can't stand innocent, clean civilians being affected or even killed by the game ever since the tragedy of his son's death. He felt bad when an innocent civilian was killed because he robbed Hector's truck for a bunch of money, and then he also felt bad about that woman he was talking to, how her husband went missing. So this is a theme for Mike's character. Ever since the murder of his son, he's always had a personal connection to innocents being tragically murdered due to corruption. Later down the road in Breaking Bad, it gets to the point that this is what causes Jesse and Mike to quit the game because they can't stand having more innocent people die in their tracks after the whole situation with Todd and the kid on the dirt bike. As we've seen from his own character arc this season during season 5, he's come to peace with playing the cards that he's been dealt. Jimmy, on the other hand, not so much. Another side note, it's interesting how Jimmy says Lalo killed that guy, and for what? Jimmy doesn't know the full story, but we do.
What about Fred from Travel Wire? Was he in the game?
No, there was a lot wrong with what happened there.
Yeah, Lalo.
Lalo went there to try and track Mike, who in turn was tracking Werner. Technically, Fred dying, along with Jimmy needing to get Lalo out of court for it, resulting in Jimmy and Mike's adventure through the desert, is a very long domino effect from last season, all because Werner wanted to run away to see his wife, and Mike had to track him down, and then Lalo was spying on them. Whoever you want to blame the most for Fred's death, obviously Lalo for doing the actual killing, but also Werner for running, or Mike for having Werner escape, Mike did unintentionally lead Lalo to Travel Wire, who ended up killing Fred. If it wasn't for Mike and Werner, Lalo would have had no reason to kill that guy to get information. Even though Lalo was the murderer, it was partially Mike's fault for not keeping Werner under wraps, and also for unintentionally leading Lalo around Albuquerque because of it.
Lalo killed that guy. And for what? He killed that guy, and we're helping him.
So, even though Mike doesn't tell Jimmy any of this, Mike is more responsible for Fred's death than Jimmy would ever know. Next up, there's Mike almost slipping up and implying to Jimmy that someone wants to kill Lalo. Mike knows more than he's leading on, and so that's why he's not worried about Lalo, because Gus assures that Lalo will be taken care of. Jimmy doesn't know this yet, of course, so he's freaking out thinking that Lalo is uncontrollably on the loose. To a certain extent he is, but as far as Mike is concerned, Lalo's days are numbered. Now, in the next episode, Mike ends up telling Jimmy that Lalo will be killed, and he almost slips up here during their conversation in 509 too.
All this shit, just so he can get out of jail and just get away.
It's not the end of the story.
Are you saying what I think you're saying? Something gonna happen to Lalo?
I didn't say that.
Listen to me. You are not blowing me off with any, that's not the end of the story. Crap. Now just specifics.
You're asking for information you can't have. Hey, you listen and you shut up. This man has other things on his mind. He's not thinking about you. Lalo Salamanca is going to die tonight. This time tomorrow it'll be done.
Is something going to happen to Lalo? I didn't say that, clearly biting his lip. Now, telling Jimmy Lalo's potential fate was a mistake that he shouldn't have done, because Lalo didn't actually die, so that's giving Jimmy and Kim a false safety. That being said, Mike just finally decides to say it to give Jimmy some peace and to get him to piss off, but that was the easy way out of the situation, and Mike should have taken the time to say something else. Finally, there's Mike talking about the road with the good and bad choices, relating to the name of the episode, A Bad Choice Road.
And the road has good choices and it has bad choices. This is a bad choice road. What are you even—
First off, he just starts this monologue to change the subject and to get Jimmy to stop questioning Lalo's fate, effectively shutting him up, but he still has a solid point. This metaphor about being on a bad choice road could be used not only towards Mike and Jimmy's characters, but all characters in the Breaking Bad universe, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul alike, that actually, quote, break bad. It also has to do with the inevitability of it all, with the argument of do people ever truly change?
We all make our choices, and those choices, they put us on a road. Sometimes those choices seem small, but they put you on the road. You think about getting off, but eventually you're back on it.
It gives a real existential crisis type feeling when you really start to think about it, along with the unintentional self-destructiveness of it all. These monologues could be taken out of context and shown to anyone in almost any situation, and it's brilliant. Realizing that it's possible to forget a traumatic experience or going down a self-destructive bad choice road.
The road we're on led us out to the desert, and everything that happened happened there and straight back to where we are right now, and nothing can be done about that. Do you understand that?
I just love these pieces of dialogue, and seriously, like, they really relate to real life situations, and that's a part of the show that's so brilliant. It's so relatable. There's so many situations in this show that are relatable. I wish that I could just go through the entire show just so I can make a checklist of relatable situations and just things that I personally even relate to in general.
Oh, fuck you, Jimmy!
That's what makes me love it so much and actually care about the characters, because I really feel like I'm in their shoes during certain situations, or that they're perfectly explaining a situation that I'm in, or one that might relate to something that happened in the past. If someone seems seriously traumatized or depressed about something, show them the mic clip.
That's the moment you realize you can forget. When you know that's possible, it all gets easier.
If they seem like they're self-destructive, show them the Bad Choice Road monologue.
We all make our choices. And those choices, they put us on a road.
Now, by all means, I'm not saying that these clips are some instant magical way to cure depression. The show's good, I'm not sure if it's that good. I just love having a certain clip of media or piece of entertainment that perfectly encapsulates a certain point or idea, ready to be shown to someone even out of context at a moment's notice, and it'll still perfectly relate to their situation and probably help them in some way. A classic example would be the definition of insanity monologue from Far Cry 3.
What the definition of insanity is. Insanity is.
Shout out to Michael Mando. Now, back to Jimmy and Mike. Jimmy tells Mike how he hates how he's the only one that he can talk to, implying that he's not much help, and Jimmy leaves.
I can't believe there's like over 1 billion people on this planet, and the only person I have to talk about this to is you.
This was really rude of Jimmy to do, even though he's just being moody and acting up. Mike probably understands this, but he took time out of his day, drove all the way down there to the courthouse just to talk to him, and Mike was honestly trying to help. Jimmy shouldn't bite the hand that helps him, and maybe this is why we don't see them talk much in Breaking Bad. Mike gives Jimmy a lot of good advice, but Mike and Jimmy just don't connect. They're the exact opposite of two peas in a pod. I feel like they misunderstand each other, but at the same time they get it. They're such polar opposites, which is why it was such a good job to bring them into the Breaking Bad spinoff as the two main recurring characters. We get a lot of amazingly unexpected Mike and Jimmy time this season, giving some of my favorite scenes ever, obviously everything that goes on with them in the desert, but also Mike refusing to take Jimmy's job because he was recovering in Mexico, followed by Jimmy hanging up to Mike in a future episode while making fun of him for being in a tunnel, just for Jimmy to go answer his front door and see Mike walk in. That was just great. Now, thinking about the Bad Choice Road idea, take note of the skateboarders in the background as Jimmy gets out of Mike's car. The skateboarders in the background are actually in reference to Jimmy hiring the skaters to con the Kettlemans back in the pilot episode of Better Call Saul Season 1, Episode 1. This was first pointed out to me from some of you in the comments, and the show creators did eventually confirm this as well during the Insider podcast along with the behind the scenes YouTube videos. When Jimmy went back to get involved with those skaters at the beginning of the show, that's the first moment that sent him down this Bad Choice road, as working with the skaters led him to meet Tuco, which eventually led him to Lalo. I discussed this extensively in my Saul meets Lalo video if you haven't checked that out, but essentially Saul meeting Tuco locked into place Saul's fate, eventually meeting Lalo down the road, since Lalo first heard about Saul from Tuco.
You know, Tuco told me about you. You're the guy with a mouth.
I'll be discussing more Lalo predictions soon, giving thoughts on how I think Lalo might interact with Saul and Kim going into Season 6 as he returns to Albuquerque. Feel free to give any and all predictions for Lalo, Saul, Kim, and just the cartel in general down below, and I might mention it in a future video. Anyways, I'd love to ramble on about Mike and Jimmy for until just the end of time really, but the video's getting kinda long, so I'm gonna stop there. That being said, I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything that I've said today, and if you're new here, you just haven't yet already, please subscribe and hit that bell notification thing for updates on whenever I do post new content for Better Call Saul. Currently, I'm rewatching Season 5 a bunch to try and solidify my thoughts and make a bunch of notes for future discussion topics, so look out for more videos in the future. I have this issue where I'll write half a script for one video and then half a script for another video. I have like 3 videos that are half done, I just need to finish them, so as always, I thank you guys all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out! Mike then explains why he doesn't feel guilty for killing those men out in the desert. Not only was Mike hired to do a job, the reasoning why he told Jimmy that
didn't say that.
Oh, Jesus, babe.
Look, we all make choices, right? And those choices, they put us on a road. And the road has good choices and it has bad choices. And this is a bad choice road.
What are you even